Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Michelle Beck. Happening right now in Texas, complete devastation in the central part of the state where catastrophic flooding has now left more than 80 people dead. Brand new video this morning shows a dramatic rescue of 2 people from very fast moving waters in Burnett County. Moments before it, rescuers say the 2 people being brought to shore were clinging on to a tree. Torrential rains raising the level of the Guadalupe River more than 20 feet in just 45 minutes, creating a wall of water that ripped apart everything in its path. More than 50 of those lost were in Kerr County, and that is where Jay Gray is this morning with the latest.
Well, good morning. I want to give you a first-hand look at just some of the devastation here. You can see the limbs, the debris pressed up against the railing of what is a river walk here. All of this more than 20 feet from the edge of the river and underwater during the most severe flooding. The damage here is overwhelming. There was more rain and evacuations overnight, and forecasters warned those conditions could continue for the next 24 hours.
Like the floodwaters tearing apart the Texas Hill Country, the rescue and recovery effort here is relentless.
That is where our energy, our resources, and our attention are directed. Nothing is more important than bringing comfort and clarity to those who are waiting and grieving.
Hundreds of first responders working around the clock, going into the 4th straight day now.
The Department of Public Safety is offering any and every resource that we have to help with those searches, whether it be boat teams, rescue, divers, helicopters, drone operators, drones.
High-profile military vehicles, thermal and night vision technology. Crews combing the strike zone on foot, others on horseback. This team uncovering the body of a young victim in the debris.
We decided we should look in that spot a little bit more before we went back down, and that's when we found it.
We covered her with a towel.
At least 80 are dead. Dozens still missing, including a group of young girls and their counselor from Camp Mystic.
I think while it was going on, I kind of felt like a sense of numbness.
13-year-old Stella Thompson escaped. She and a group of fellow campers led out by the National Guard through debris, overturned vehicles, camp gear and clothes littering the trees, rescue divers in the water.
Saying it out loud is making me realize what actually happened and how bad it actually is.
A realization so many in Central Texas are struggling with right now.
Yeah, and look, with all of the damage, all that's been lost here, frankly, many in this area are still in shock, though they will tell you the one thing they haven't lost is hope, and that includes the rescue teams who stress they are doing just that, searching for survivors, and say that will continue until everyone is found. In Kerrville, Texas, I'm Jay Gray. Now back to you.
We're also tracking dangerous flooding in North Carolina this morning. The National Weather Service says Tropical Depression Chantal is dumping several inches of rain across counties in the north and central parts of the state, leaving thousands without power. Dozens of people also being rescued from their homes overnight as the rain washed out streets. Chantal made landfall Sunday as a tropical storm but was downgraded hours later. Flood watches remain in effect through today for 2 major cities, Fayetteville and Raleigh. Right now, the Trump administration on defense, with some officials in Texas criticizing the National Weather Service for underestimating the rainfall that led to massive flooding there. The president says he'll visit the area this week. NBC's Alice Barr has details from Washington.
Amid the search for answers in Texas and now questions about staffing, the National Weather Service is defending its response. Independent meteorologists and a former NWS official tell NBC News the warnings were about as timely as possible and that predicting extreme rain and flash flooding beyond several hours is always challenging. President Trump back in Washington pledging support for flood-ravaged Central Texas and planning to visit later this week.
I would have done it today, but we'd just be in their way.
While pushing back on questions about whether cuts to the federal government left key vacancies at the National Weather Service.
They did not. They did. I'll tell you, you look at that water situation. This is a 100-year catastrophe, and it's just so horrible to watch.
That as critics called for an investigation into staffing levels at the offices responsible for issuing flood warnings.
I know there are a number of important vacant positions, and that I and others have been asking for some time how this affects our preparedness here and ability to give alerts.
The legislative director for the National Weather Service Employees Union said the offices did have enough meteorologists to respond while raising concerns about unfilled senior positions. The National Weather Service released its timeline of alerts starting early Thursday and noting a 1:14 a.m. warning that triggered cell phone alerts. The White House saying the NWS did their job, while in Texas, the long and painful job to recover amid so much loss is just beginning. Today at the White House, President Trump is hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as pressure is mounting for a ceasefire in Gaza. At the same time, the White House sending letters today pressing multiple countries to reach trade deals, with a deadline for all those wide-ranging deals originally set for Wednesday, now pushed to August 1st. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
We have new details this morning on that possible ceasefire deal in the Middle East as President Trump welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House. Delegations from Hamas and Israel are meeting in Doha, and both sides say they are open to a framework for a 60-day ceasefire. A source familiar with the negotiations says it would kickstart talks for a permanent truce that would entail the release of 10 living Israeli hostages and the bodies of 18 others. Hamas would see Israel's partial withdrawal from northern Gaza and get back some Palestinian prisoners and detainees. The plan also would allow the UN to bring aid into Gaza. The Gaza Health Ministry reports scores of people died in Israeli strikes over the weekend. Happening tonight, the family of Philando Castile is hosting a community barbecue outside the Falcon Heights City Hall. It comes 9 years after a St. Anthony police officer shot and killed Castile during a traffic stop. On Sunday, family and friends gathered at the Philando Castile Peace Garden for a candlelight vigil on what's known as Restoration Day. That's followed by today, July 7th, Unity Day. Both were proclaimed by the governor as a way to remember Castile. His family says they'll provide food, music, and entertainment for tonight's barbecue. It starts at 5. Some Minnesotans are sharing their frustrations this morning after Taste of Minnesota hit capacity just ahead of their big headliner last night. Audrey Russo is in Minneapolis this morning with details.
Yeah, this was a free event and people very clearly took advantage of that here in downtown Minneapolis. I'm standing about a half block away from where the stage was. Things have calmed down in the overnight hours, but I did see people on social media saying that they were watching folks try to shove their way through into the event, hopping the fences just to get in to Taste of Minnesota. Here's how it all started to go south. The Taste of Minnesota Facebook page posted around 7 o'clock last night that the event was almost at capacity. And then just 20 minutes later, another post saying the event was at capacity, 10 minutes before headliner Ludacris was scheduled to perform. Then came the police calls. The dispatch logs show every officer who responded to the event. Social media users described it as an all-hands-on-deck situation. In these TikTok videos, you can see the crowds of people swarming around the stage watching Ludacris perform. One person described having to crawl into a planter in order to see the show. Now, I haven't seen any reports that people were injured on social media in all of these capacity issues, though I did reach out to Minneapolis police to confirm that. I also reached out to the organizers of Taste of Minnesota to see if any of the capacity issues or the chaos from last night is going to affect what they plan for next year's event. Back to you.
Audrey, thanks. Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.